both from the class of 1973, and Jean Raspberry, who is from the class of 1958. The purpose of the Groveton Ex-Students Association Hall of Fame, as written by the founders of this organization, is to honor and recognize former students and other individuals who have made significant contributions to the education of students in Groveton ISD, or who have attained distinction in a chosen field of endeavor, or who have motivated others to attain greatness, or those who have influenced and inspired others toward attainment of moral and spiritual values. Today's honorees were selected by a committee comprised of 5 lifetime members of the Groveton Ex-Students Association, and we appreciate the time and the careful consideration given to the task by our committee. Is there anybody in here who's on that committee? I don't think so, but we appreciate their help so much. They did a great job. May I ask you to stand as we begin our induction ceremony with an invocation led by Larry Taylor. And Larry is from the Groveton High School class of 1973. And after Larry has our invocation, if you could remain standing, we're going to say the pledges to the flag.
Let's pray together. Father, we want to thank you today for this institution that you've used in our lives to bring us to this point in our lives. For those teachers, those educators who poured themselves into us and the effects it's had. Lord, I thank you for the friendships that we made, for the destiny that was fulfilled, and the springboard that this place still provides for many. Lord, let this time today be a blessing of remembering and honoring those who've accomplished great things in their lives, but most of all of honoring you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We have the U.S. flag there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to thank you for being here today to help us honor these Hall of Fame inductees and for your continued support of our association. In May of this year, this organization awarded more than $80,000 in scholarships to our graduating seniors and current students. These scholarships enable our graduates to pursue their higher education and reach their educational goals. We're grateful for the donor families for their faith in us to be good stewards of their contributions in memory of their loved ones. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Executive Board of Directors. Our Vice Presidents are Betty Kennedy Whittlesey. Where are you, Betty? She's class of 1961. And Betty can do anything you need for Betty to do. She helped me this morning do a bulletin board, and I had lost my earrings. And so I said, Betty, could you bring me some earrings? Betty brought me some earrings, so she is a great helper. I appreciate her so much. Kathleen Muffman Cockrell is the class of 1962. She's also a great helper. Our secretary is Liz Kennedy Ledbetter. She's class of 2002. The treasurer is Tim Coker. Where's Tim? 1970. Melissa Miracle Kemper, class of 1994, is our activity director. And Marlena is not here, but Marlena Woolley Stubblefield, class of 1979, is our publicity chairman. We thank them all for their service and their dedication to the students of Groveton schools. I'd also like to recognize Miss Maria Plotz, who is what we would know as the homemaking teacher. It's called something fancy now, family and consumer science classes, but her kids did this decorating. If you'll remember, our theme is neon nostalgia, so that's why we have some really bright colors and a different look. Usually it's football and red and white and go Indians, but the selection was for neon, so we've had a lot of fun with that. Her kids are responsible for the decorations, and they've done an awesome job, so we appreciate them. Are there any board members who are here? I don't think so, but we appreciate the board. They're very supportive of endeavors and very grateful when in May we talk about all the scholarships that we're able to award those kids. Our first inductee for our Groveton Ex-Students Hall of Fame is going to be introduced by Meghann Parker. This is Taylor's sister, so would you come up, please?
Joanne, lay down that. Yeah, it's too high.
We're tall, she's today. I'm not going to stand up. Excuse my voice, I'm a little hoarse, but good afternoon. It's a special opportunity for me to be here with you today to celebrate our GHS alumni and honoring them for being inducted into the Hall of Fame. But it's really meaningful to me because I get to speak on behalf of my brother, as I am his younger sister, heavy emphasis on the younger part, by a few years. But Taylor and I spent our entire childhood here at Groveton. In elementary, we started in kindergarten and we both finished our school years here. So he graduated again in the class of 2000 and I followed in the class of 2003. Hang on. There we go. Okay. Homecoming was always something really special around Groveton, as it still is, but being from a small town, it's something when you're in school and in high school that you really look forward to. It's a big week of spirit, you get to dress up, you get to do all sorts of fun stuff. And so I think as adults, it's really neat for us as we come back and we watch the kids today carry out some of the same traditions that we did. Again, that nostalgia is one of the things that makes Groveton really unique. To be such a small little place in a small town school, we have a lot of school spirit and big pride, and they still do a lot of the same things that they did when we were in school. So I think that's really neat, and I think it's neat for Taylor to come back and see it. I live here, my kids go to school here, so I get to see those things on a daily basis. But when you're not around and you do come back and you find that some of those things that we did are still being done today, I think that's pretty cool. So I think that some of you in the audience know Taylor. Some of you may remember him, obviously, when he was in school as a student. Some of you met him as an adult, or some of you may not know him at all, or you may have seen him on TV and feel like you kind of know him. But I'm going to tell you as his sister kind of how I know him. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about the Taylor that I know, which might be really fun. It may not for him, but it's going to be fun for me. But of course, his career and his honorable accomplishments and all of the things that he's achieved in his professional life, to me, that's, of course, very to be commended. And it's something that we're going to celebrate, and I most definitely will recognize those parts of his life. But first, I'm going to take you back a little bit. It is homecoming, so we're going to go back a little bit into the beginning days of Taylor as an amateur. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little few nuggets about him in his younger years. Again, he possesses a deep love for strategies and for intense competition. Games like chess, not my thing, but he loves them. And he did get voted most competitive and most likely to succeed in high school. His senior year, we get to get these fun superlatives. They still do those things too. But those were the two that he received, and they fit him quite well. So I agree with that completely. He's a UIL state speller. He and Miss Marge Evans, I know many of you know her, and she is was such a key part of his educational life here at Groveton. But they spent many hours and hours practicing words that I couldn't even pronounce. I was not his study helper at home, I promise you. He did that pretty much on his own. But he's also the best movie critic. If you don't know about a movie or you want to know about a movie, you can ask Taylor and he'll tell you. And our opinions of movies are completely different. But he loves movies. He loves to watch all of them before the Oscars and all the major awards are given so that he can have a true opinion himself of those things. And finally, a little bit more about him just personally so you can kind of know him like I do. He's a fabulous car DJ. So if you ever go on a road trip with him, he's going to be in control of the radio, first of all. And secondly, I have no doubt, I'm almost 100% certain that if he wouldn't have made it on TV as an anchor, a news anchor, he would have definitely found his way into a boy band like Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or something like that, because he has quite a voice for such a thing. And we were known to have our music a little loud as we pulled into the school parking lot a few times. But those were the fun times of us growing up in high school, and a little bit about who he was all those years ago. He's always enjoyed acting. He's always been great at improv impromptu situations. He's like extremely witty, still is, and he was always. He's never met a stranger. And so in my mind, I knew there was no doubt that he would be very successful if he chose a career to be on TV in any capacity. But broadcast journalism was what he wanted to do from very early on. And so oftentimes on our family video recorder, you know, back when we were younger, we didn't have these fancy phones that you stuck in your pocket and you could video. As much of you, I'm sure, remember that. We had these enormous things that you carried in a bag. You know, we had to have an extra little suitcase for them, and we took them on all of our family vacations. And so we have many videos where he is live at the scene of the Hemness family vacation at Best Western Hotel, and we get all of the good details of the chaos going on behind the scenes there on our trips. So many times I was the cameraman, probably not the best one, and probably very easily distracted. But we do have those little tidbits of evidence that he started at an extremely early age. After high school, Taylor attended Abilene Christian University to pursue his degree in broadcast journalism, and while attending ACU, he met his wife, Katie, and they've been married 18 years, and they have 3 boys who are sitting right up here in front. Tanner's the oldest, and then we have 2 identical twins, Corbin and Thatcher. So I can remember when he chose ACU as his school of choice, and we visited, and we kind of, you know, researched and did the tour and did all the things. And I really, you know, I was still in high school again because I'm younger. So I was in high school, and we had to make this long road trip to, you know, Abilene. It was over 5 hours, and I thought, oh my gosh. I mean, what is he going to do 5 hours away? I mean, we live in this little place. We've always been right here with my parents. And so from the very beginning, though, Taylor was never really nervous. He was never really anxious. He was excited. I think he was, you know, maybe a little uncertain about what was coming up, but he was always kind of a dream chaser, a go-getter. He loved to set big goals. He loved new places. He loved new people. And so he was excited. He was ready. And my mom, on the other hand, not so much, but she was excited too because he was. And so being that far away, you know, it was kind of a situation where we weren't sure, but he was sure. And we were proud of him, and he left and he went and he soared really at ACU and loved it there. And so he graduated from there with honors, and after college he began a career in San Angelo, which is further away. And after working there for a few years, he had an opportunity to come back to East Texas, and he worked at KTRE in Lufkin, which was really a neat opportunity for him to be able to be in a community where the kind of the village that helped raise him was able to actually see him on TV. Because, you know, being in San Angelo, although they knew he was there, you couldn't get that on TV. And you couldn't see what he was doing and his work and the growth that he was making. And so it was really neat for him to be in Lufkin for those couple of years, to be able to have a kind of a closer connection with the people that he knew and that loved and watched him grow up, of course, in his family as well. But in 2009, he was hired by KLTV in Tyler, he was going to be a news anchor and a reporter there. And he and Katie spent a big stint of their time there. They were there about 8 years, I think, in Tyler, and they brought all 3 boys into the world there. And they made countless memories there, lots of great relationships with people, their work families, their church families, their neighborhood. The kids had friends. So Tyler was a big nugget in their life. It was something that kind of helped mold him into something even greater. But that's where he received some really great awards. But in 2015, he received the Lone Star Emmy for Best Small Market Evening Newscast. And I did say Emmy, so it was a big deal. It was a huge deal. And so we were all kind of like, wow. I remember when he called and he told me, and I was like, are we talking about saying Emmys? I mean, really? Are you serious? No, I'm joking. But I was very proud of him, and I think he was even in disbelief himself to have achieved such a thing. But it was his ability to do the things that he wanted to do and be successful in his craft. But what was really neat about it is that Taylor has a true love of what he does. So he chose his career, and so many of us today choose a career. You choose a career when you're 18 years old, and who knows if you want to carry that on forever. I mean, that's a long time to have to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. But more importantly, it wasn't just his job, and he felt like it was his purpose. He takes great pride in his work, and to me, that's very rare these days. So not only did he receive such a high honor and high award, but he truly deserved that for what he had done and what he had put into it. So I think this was just kind of the jump start to a lot of professional achievements and development for him. But after several years in Tyler, they had been there again, like I said, it was a huge nugget in their life, and they kind of started kicking around the idea of maybe we should, explore some different options. Maybe there's some bigger markets out there, and I really didn't know how the news market works, and probably most of you don't, but he explained it to me, like, there's size of markets, and when you're having, the idea of moving up a career path or moving up in your career journey, the size of the market matters. It's not just the size of the town or the location per se, but it's the market that matters. And so he kind of, toyed with that idea and kind of started thinking maybe I want to explore that. So living and working in Tyler had been wonderful. It had been a blessing. He was successful, but he kind of felt a sense of urgency to fulfill a calling for something maybe to pursue a little bit bigger greatness that he had within him. And so I once read that you are never given a dream without also being given the power to make it true. So there's no doubt to me that when God gave Taylor his strength and his talents, that he also gave him the power to seek the opportunities to develop those strengths and those talents, to use them for the best that he can to benefit. So to grow and experience new things for him, and to never be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. So Tyler was good. It was great to, good for him, but he was going for the great and felt something a little bit calling more, bigger calling his name. And so in 2017, the Hemness family took a leap of faith and they moved to Kansas City, which is a long way away. Okay, but as they always do, they made their house a home. They embraced the newness, and they began getting involved in all the areas again, in their community, in their church family, the kids with school, with activities and extracurriculars and things like that. So once again, as his sister, I admired him for having the courage to follow his heart and his intuition, because that's a big jump. And being from a small town, I would never do it, and he knows it because I'm just a homebody. But for him, he really desired that, and he followed his heart and his intuition. So while in Kansas City, he won 2 Mid-America Emmys in 2019 for large market morning newscast and feature reporting, and he has a current nomination in the Mid-America Emmy Awards today. So that is to be applauded, and something that I know he is super proud of. And again, more success as he's building his career. Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, we all know who that is. He once said, "Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do." So to me, it's evident that Taylor truly loves what he does, and his work is a true testament to that. He genuinely does love all the little pieces that go into what he does, not just the end result of the highlight reel that all of us see on TV. We see a snip of a story. We see a quick interview with someone that's been recorded, but you don't always see the behind the scenes part, and that's where a lot of the grit has to go into, and I think he does a great job of taking such pride in that part as well, and that's given him the ability to make a difference in so many viewers and so many people, and build relationships outside of what we see on TV. So, I'm not sure if you noticed when I was kind of giving you a little bit of a few of those nuggets about him, when I mentioned his younger years, but I don't think you've ever heard the word sports come out of my mouth, okay? That wasn't really mentioned, specifically football. And so, growing up in Groveton, if you were a guy, you kind of played football. And so, I can remember, and when he was in 7th grade, when he got the opportunity, it was time for school sports. And my dad, being the avid Groveton Indian fan that he was, and especially when we were in school involved and everything, he didn't miss anything. And boy, he was so stinking excited that Taylor was going to play football. Well, Taylor, on the other hand, had a much different opinion. He was less than eager to put on pads and a helmet and actually hit somebody. So every day, I can remember, Dad got home later than we did, and so every day he would come in and he would just, throw himself on the couch just in utter disgust, like this was the worst day ever. And we would be like, well, he was like, oh. So, he would you could just read it all over him. And so, but he was trying. So Dad would come in and, so happy and positive, and how was it, son? And so I think out of respect for our dad, because he was so happy about football, Taylor at first would be like, oh, it was okay, and it was fine. And every once in a while we might get a good, but then after a few weeks he just couldn't do it anymore. He was like, Dad, I hate it. I don't want to do it. I do not like getting hit. I don't want to hit anybody. So it didn't last long, and Dad eventually understood that wasn't his cup of tea, and that he has been able to excel in so many other areas in school, and he did. He was the drum major in the band, and he was big into UIL and the things that academically he could excel at. And so football just wasn't his thing, or sports, and that was okay. But what's funny about that is that Taylor kind of came out on the winning end of the whole football subject when he was given the opportunity to broadcast and to cover the Super Bowl. So I don't know if any of you watched, the Super Bowl, but when Kansas City was playing last year, Taylor got to go. And so although he was never the football player, he was a great football fan, and he loved to watch sports, and he was very knowledgeable about them. So when he was given the chance to go, he got the best of both worlds. And he kind of, he got the last laugh because, hey, I'm at the Super Bowl and y'all aren't. So he could cheer on his team and broadcast it as well, which was really a neat experience for him. And I think we all wish that we were kind of alongside him at that point. But in my opinion, that was pretty awesome for him. But to me, being successful is absolutely to be honored. And it's, every award that you get, every honor that you get, every achievement that you get in your professional life is for sure something that is to be recognized and appreciated. But to me, the person that you are outside of your job, we all have a job, and tells a story that sometimes doesn't get shared. So as his sister, I can give you that story a little bit outside of his professional life. So Taylor is a great human being, and as I said before, when he does something, he puts his full gusto into it, his full effort, his commitment. He wants to do his best, to be his best, and give his best. And so I think he takes that into his personal life as well. He's a phenomenal father, and from the very beginning of becoming a father, he's been very intentional about his time with them. He's very intentional about spending individual time with them, about being an example, not just talking the talk, but also walking the walk, and I think that's important. He's a big part of whatever extracurricular activity they choose or whatever they want to be a part of. And just recently, he extended his volunteering to becoming a flag football coach for his twins. So again, Groveton just keeps nudging him in the rib. Football is still going to creep up on him and make its way into his life, but he helps and volunteers with that. He loves his wife Katie unconditionally. He shares his love with her for the world, and being her husband is one of his favorite titles alongside being a dad. He takes great pride in both of those things. He's a faithful Christian, and he makes it a priority to be involved with all things in his church, to be involved with their church family, but not only that, but he makes it a priority to be an example for his family and to lead them well. They're involved in all kinds of church groups. They open their home to church, to small groups. Katie and Taylor are very loving, they're very kind, they're very giving, and they're very transparent. They've always kind of shared the love of people with their boys and teach them the same thing. But some of you may remember, this is just a fun side story and a little tidbit, but I think it's worth sharing because some of you may remember sitting up here in the front, Tanner, their oldest son. If you haven't seen it, he was on the Steve Harvey show for sharing scriptures based on the ABC. So he learned, he was 4 years old at the time, and so Taylor videoed him doing it. They had a scripture, and not just a one word. It wasn't like I remember a word for every letter of the ABCs. It was a full scripture for each letter. And so Taylor videoed him and uploaded it online and kind of shared it, and it got shared again and shared again and shared again. And so eventually he got an invitation to be on the Steve Harvey show. And so again, if you haven't looked it up, you need to. It's very impressive, but even more precious. So if you get a chance, just YouTube it, you'll find it. His name is Tanner. But to me, I don't know about you guys, but a 4-year-old learning 26 different Bible verses doesn't happen by himself. So although he's incredibly smart and incredibly able to do it, it took commitment from these two right here raising him. And so that's to be commended to me. So what a testament to them as parents to put that kind of value on their faithfulness and following Jesus through the example that they led. So I think that's cool. So if you haven't seen it, go look it up. But he's participated and emceed in many charitable events throughout his adult life. He serves on the board of the Children's Advocacy Center, and he makes it his mission to positively impact the community by any chance he gets, by being out there, being active within different organizations, going to the schools, anything that he can do to volunteer. He's usually right on board and will do whatever he can. He's funny. Let me rephrase that. It's pretty hilarious, and he's a total hoot. And he will have you in stitches within about 5 minutes of conversation with him, honestly. He and I really don't need to sit together in serious situations, which is I'm so thankful that she didn't put me at the head table next to him, because it probably would not have been a good thing. We would have had fun, but we might have been a little distracting. But we might be known to crack a joke here and there, and that's okay. He's very lighthearted and funny, like I said, and so we do have a good time. But in closing, I hope that I have given you somewhat of an insight to him personally. When he asked me to introduce him, I was kind of like, I mean, I will, absolutely, but I don't know. I mean, are you sure? Do you want me to get really personal? Or do I have to be all like business and professional? Because I do whichever you want. So I chose the personal route for y'all today, but I really feel like that no matter where his career leads him, or the path that he follows in his future, I know that he has a true deep love and appreciation for this place. This is the place that built him. And what's funny is it's right here in this room that we spent countless hours in one-act play and in different events. This is where everything was, because we didn't have all of the different buildings that they have now. So it's really cool to be back here, right here today, because he was heavily influenced by this place and heavily influenced by the phenomenal faculty and staff that were a part of both of our lives growing up. Because that's, like I said, it's something we won't forget, and it's something that heavily impacted us as adults. So to the outside world, I think we all grow, we all change, we all go separate ways. But to siblings, we kind of know each other as we always were. You know, it's kind of funny because, I mean, we know the things, we know each other's hearts, we remember the funny memories, the private moments, but we live outside of the touch of time. So that's why I chose to share with you a little bit about his past instead of just what you know to be true with his awards, because that's who he is to me. So this is my brother, my older brother, Taylor Hemness.
Thank you, younger sister. The funny thing about that, and I'm going to have to start off with an apology, unfortunately, because I have to apologize to my fellow nominees, because I have told people in Kansas City in my circle, when I told them what I was doing this weekend, I told them that I'm the youngest of the nominees, and now the word old gets used in my introduction that many times. It's a little bit of a different situation than what I expected, but thank you to my sister who told me, please don't make me do this, and did a bang-up job. Thank you very much. As she mentioned there at the end of that speech, I know this room pretty well, and I know this stage pretty well. My first memory when I wrote this script of this stage is singing a solo of the Little Drummer Boy right there during an elementary school Christmas play. I want to say 3rd grade maybe, but I could be wrong about that. But in talking with Mom this weekend, I was reminded, and we talked about that there used to be an event called the Queen of Hearts Festival that I think was in this room as well, that I did kindergarten and 1st grade in my little tuxedo, so that was in this room. I lit candles also on that corner of the stage when I was elected a couple of times, I think, as an officer of the Beta Club. I met Jane Goodall on this stage when I won an essay contest. I'm still just as shocked as other people when I tell the story that Jane Goodall, known far and wide the world over, came to Groveton, and I got to meet her. I played saxophone several times on this stage for orchestral band performances. Actually, I was thinking about that. I did my first solo with a saxophone in front of people right over there, and it's interesting. I walked over there a minute ago and realized that about 10 feet away from that, my name's going to be on the wall, which is a weird thing to realize. And of course, I have danced, attempted robbery, kissed, and even died on this stage as an actor in junior high and high school when I played performances. Not one time during all that did I ever imagine I'd be standing here today giving a speech like this. There are so many people I want to thank today, starting with the Groveton Students Association for selecting me. I was actually sitting on a plane earlier this year when I read your email to let me know that I was under consideration, and before I could even finish the email, I had tears in my eyes, which my wife could probably attest to. She was sitting next to me, so thank you for this honor. Kathleen Cockrell, I want to thank too, who, thanks to multiple years of regional and state UIL academic competitions, Beta Club and student council conventions, and finally this morning in a homecoming parade through downtown Groveton, has driven me literally thousands of miles across this state. To be nominated by a woman who is, in my opinion, the beating heart of the junior high and high school campus especially, means the world to me. I have so many memories of laughing with you at some restaurant. Remember Hula Hut in Austin that one time that Gary Johnson did something ridiculous and we were laughing at her? So thank you for thinking of me. I do want to thank so many teachers who had such a big impact on me as a student, some of whom sadly are no longer with us, but I want to mention them anyway. Betty Stewart, Wanda Dew, Teresa Anderson, Carolyn Evans, and Johnny Holly in elementary school, Jane Fortenberry and Jeannie Baker in junior high, Carrie Johnson and Lynn McKelvey in high school, and of course the two teachers who spent so many hours with me and were there for some of my proudest moments as a student, Marge Evans and Dorothy Kennedy. Ms. Kennedy deserves a great deal of credit for my career. She's sitting back there right now. I spend hours anchoring live television every day right now. But before speech and theater classes and UIL competitions, I don't know that anyone in my orbit ever would have seen that in my future. I am by nature a pretty shy guy, despite what Meghann was describing there. Yes, in front of people that I'm comfortable with, I'm a little bit different, but I'm typically pretty shy around people I don't know. Between poking me with sticks and hitting my foot with a rock in speech classes, Mrs. Kennedy, to do away with the ums, it was not abuse, she was trying to stop me from saying and casting me in lead roles on stage, she taught me that speaking in front of people is actually where I'm most comfortable. You may not love that based on how long this speech lasts today, but I am and will be forever grateful for that. Mrs. Evans, of course, taught me a love of history, but thanks to her coaching in UIL spelling, taught me that just because you are naturally good at something doesn't mean you can't be better. Words have always appealed to me, as you might be able to tell, and I have competed in spelling from about 3rd or 4th grade on whenever I got my first chance to do it, even winning district championships in elementary, junior high, and high school in spelling. So this is an odd way to thank her today, but I know now that if I had practiced and studied as much as Mrs. Evans actually wanted me to, I wouldn't have a state silver medal at home, I'd have a gold one. Hard work is even more important when you are capable of doing something great. And that is a lesson that has helped me many, many times as an adult, and one that my sons have likely already heard a time or two as well. I want to once again thank my sister Meghann for introducing me today. I was the super involved one. She was and still is the effortlessly cool, casually gorgeous one. She was the one that made sure I didn't take myself too seriously, and made sure I remembered that my childhood was supposed to be my childhood. I didn't have to have it all figured out. I'm so thankful now that our relationship means she's the one I can call whenever I need someone who really knows me. Left my handkerchief down here. Thank you to my parents, Ted and Marilyn Hemness, for all of their support. I picked, as Meghann described, all the things that are not easy to watch and support as a parent. Basketball and football games were replaced by weird times for theater performances, no audiences for UIL academic competitions. Watching spelling is not exactly riveting. And for most of my time in band, I was a drum major, which means all I was doing for them to watch was waving my arms with my back to them. That's what the view was like at most football games for a lot of the time. But thank you both for always saying yes to all the things I wanted to do. Finally, to the 4 people here who had absolutely nothing to do with my time in Groveton schools, but everything to do with my joy today, my wife Katie, and my sons Tanner, Corbin, and Thatcher. They are my biggest cheerleaders, not only as a broadcaster. The boys routinely tell people who I am when a person says, I feel like I know you from somewhere in public, and they will tell them, do you watch KSHP 41? But they're also my biggest cheerleader as a man. Just like I never imagined I'd be here giving this speech, I never imagined I'd be surrounded by a family like this one. Boys that challenge me all the time, and a wife that forces me to look at life for what it can be, not just for what it is. I love you all. I think the word that best describes my time as a student in Groveton is involvement. I sat down with my senior yearbook last night at Mom and Dad's house, and I counted the number of times I appeared in my senior yearbook. It was difficult because my mom kept talking to me. I said, Mom, I'm trying to count. And I got to 37 times that I'm in my senior yearbook. Now, I want to be very clear. I was also the editor of that yearbook, but I can honestly say that most of those photos are not random candidates thrown in to fill space, because even after 20 plus years in television, there are very few pictures of me that I think are any good. I'm more of a moving video, not a still photography kind of person. Most of those 37 pictures feature me as a member of a club, or a team, or a student council, or a band, or a cast. I took such pride in being involved at this school. By the time that I was a senior, I think I was at school most mornings by about 7:15 because I had some meeting or practice before school even got started. And I think that when I think about growing up in a small town, I think about the opportunities that afforded me. Groups and casts and clubs and student councils need kids to take part in them. And I wanted to do it. And there was room for me to do it. My oldest son, Tanner, will get his first chance next semester to play basketball for his school, not just for Little League, for the actual middle school. And just in 7th grade, I think there may be as many as 3 teams just in his middle school. Now, as Meghann alluded to, sports is never where I excelled, so this may be a poor analogy, but I hope you'll follow me. I don't remember a lot of instances where students at Groveton didn't make a cut because there was just too many kids for them to be able to do it. There weren't enough spots. Every student here had ample room to try what they wanted to try and do what they wanted to do. I think it was my senior year at an end-of-year assembly, once again in this room, when the principal, Vicki Gilbert, asked the entire student body, who's standing right up there, asked the entire student body in this room to come up to the stage if they were involved in any extracurricular activity, anything. If you do FFA, if you do band, anything at all outside of class, come up here. By the time everyone had done so, there were only a handful of students left in the seats. And I remember, I think I was right about there, feeling sorry for them, but also being so confused as to why a student wouldn't want to find every opportunity to be excited or even passionate about something in this small school and small town. That excitement and passion was everything to me, from getting here early to sell donuts on a Friday morning to getting home well after midnight that same night after an hour-plus ride on the band bus back from New Waverly or Leon or someplace that was an hour and a half away. That's what I cherish most about my time here, and I really honestly do wish every day I could go back and have one of those Fridays from start to finish. Just one more time. The final thing I want to talk about today is how thankful I am for my career, which Meghann described a little bit. Because after all, advancements in this career are part of the reason that I'm standing here this afternoon, and I appreciate that recognition. I've spoken about the lessons I learned in Groveton, but those lessons are not just about things that happened in these halls and these classrooms and on this stage several times. I actually ran off of this stage several times to that bathroom as part of performances, and now my name's going to be up there. But not just about what happened here. I'm thankful every day, and I say this often, that I grew up in a place where everybody knows everybody. We all say that here. That small town aspect of my upbringing is incredibly valuable to me. But what is true at the same time is how grateful I am for the different communities that I've been able to live in as an adult and the lessons that they've taught me. My job in journalism is about listening to and telling other people's stories. As such, I very often get to listen to stories from people who are very different than me. Obviously, in most cases, that means they were also raised in a very different situation than I was raised in. What I try to remember in those moments, and I hope that you will too, is that all that is required of us when it comes to listening to other people is our time and a willingness to understand the different literal or metaphorical hometowns that people have and dirt roads and highways that they've traveled. How we choose to react and respond to those people in those moments is entirely up to us, whether we grew up on an interstate or just off Highway 94. Thank you all once again for being here today and for this honor. It really is one of the most cherished recognitions I've ever received. Thank you.
Taylor, you make us so proud. I'm presenting you this plaque from the Groveton Ex-Students Association, and it reads, in recognition of your lifetime, there's a lot ahead of you still, and your achievements and your dedicated service. We're very proud of you. Congratulations. Give us just a second. We're going to take a picture. Tim, are you ready to take pictures?